Hi everyone, my name is Nuria and this is my sewing journey, and for today's video I'm going to show you how to make these pleated trousers. We're going to look into how to draft them and into how to sew them. So let's get started. We're going to start with the drafting, and the only thing you're going to be needing is your trouser foundation. Of course you can make it in any foundation you want, but this is my favorite one for this specific design, and if you don't have the trouser foundation done, I'm going to link it down below. And also, I'm sorry, but it's very important that you fix all the fitting issues before you start with this pattern, otherwise you're gonna come up with weird stuff. But luckily the trousers are fairly easy to fix. So good luck and let's get into the drafting. So for today's video we're going to be using the trouser foundation like I said before, and the first thing we're going to do is transfer our pieces on the paper. So now we have transferred all the lines and everything, and the next thing to do is changing our leg line. You can leave it tapered like this, but for this pattern I'm going to make them a straight leg line. So I'm going to make a straight leg line from the hip line down to the hem for both front and back. And now that we have the new leg line, the next thing I'm going to do is focus on the waistline. This pattern is drafted to fit my natural waistline, but for this design I'm going to lower the waistline just a tiny bit to show you how that's done. And in this case I'm going to lower it 3 centimeters. So I'm basically going to move this line down for both front and back. And the idea is that now my new waistline is on this line, so I can forget about this line here. So I'm going to cross it so you don't get confused. And the next thing I'm going to do is mark my waistband. My waistband is going to be 4 centimeters, so I'm going to mark it from the new waistline down. Okay, so now that we're done marking the waistbands, let's look at them with little pieces. The idea of the waistband is that we're going to create a curved waistband, and we're going to get rid of these darts for both front and back. So what I'm going to do for now is mark the pieces of the waistband. So the center back, the side back, the side front, and the center front. And for now I'm going to leave them up here. I'll show you how to finish the waistband later. The next thing we have to do before adding the pleats is marking our pockets at the front. As I told you, we're going to have side pockets, so let's start with the side opening. The opening is going to be 4.5 centimeters wide and 16.5 centimeters long. And we're going to join these two lines together. The next thing is creating the shape of the pocket. The pocket is going to be 30 centimeters long and it's going to come to the center front, and here it's going to be 10 centimeters long. And this is always measured from where the waistband is going to be connected. And now we create that weird shape of the pocket. And you can make it as big as you want, but I like to make it big enough to fit my phone. And you would think we're done, but the pocket has 2 more pieces, and it's the backing and the facing. And these 2 pieces is to hide the fact that we're using different fabric for the pocket lining. So let's mark how big our backing and our facing are going to be. This is going to be 3.75 centimeters away from the pocket opening. And I'm basically going to create a parallel line from this one that finds this point here. More or less, it doesn't need to be super precise. So now we have all the pieces of the pocket. Let me break them down to you so you understand. So if we break down the pieces for the pockets, we have the bottom piece of the pocket, and the bottom piece of the pocket goes with the backing to hide. So this would be in lining fabric and this would be in the main fabric, and this is the bottom part of the pocket. And then the top part of the pocket would be, of course, the front of the trousers. And then it would be this side of the pocket, that is the top lining layer. And then the backing of the pocket that would also be in the main fabric. And that's how it would be, just below the front piece. And then this would be on top of each other. So it would be like a little sandwich like this. So you would see only the main fabric. And if you did like this, you would also see the main fabric. So I'm gonna leave these pieces on the side for now, and I'm going to show you the seam allowances and everything later. Okay, so for this pattern, the back piece is ready. We're not going to do anything with it. If you want to see other videos on how to add well pockets or how to add back pockets, or even if you want to add a yoke, I'm not going to do anything. But let's look at the front and how to add the pleats. The first thing I'm going to do is bring the crease line to the top. And I'm going to create a parallel line to this one, 3.75 centimeters away from the first one. And I'm going to bring it down as much as you want. And at some point here, randomly, for example, I'm going to bring it to the knee. So first I'm going to extend this knee line and I'm going to connect it to the knee. So if you're interested how far away from the knee I stopped, it's around 17 centimeters, but you can make it lower or whatever you want. And now that we have this, we're going to have to cut this piece and transfer it to a new paper. So we have a clean piece of paper and we have our pieces here. We have the front, we have the back, we have all the parts of our waistband, and we have all the parts for our pocket. Let's start with the front because we have to add the pleats. And the first thing I'm going to do is cut through the lines that we created. So I'm going to cut through this crease line all the way until here, but I'm not going to cut through because I don't want to add volume at the bottom. And we're going to cut through this other line again all the way, but not through the knee. Okay, so now that we have it like this, I'm going to align it as far as I can. So here, leaving enough space to add seam allowance later. And I'm going to start by marking the front like this. And our first pleat is going to start here. So what I'm going to do is separate this 5 centimeters. So I'm going to create a mark at 5 centimeters. And I'm going to move this 5 centimeters and I'm going to mark this one here and the bottom until the knee opening. And the second pleat is going to be 2.5 centimeters. And I'm going to move this side 2.5 centimeters and I'm going to mark it again. And we can separate this. So my pleats are going to be here. Very good, so this is the front. And here we added 2.5 centimeters, but if your pattern has bigger waist darts than mine, what you can do is remove the waist darts and transfer them here. So instead of 2.5, then the width of the 2 darts or the 1 dart together. So this is the front, and now let's transfer the back. But let's look into the waistband next. As I said, this design does not have a fly, that's why we didn't create anything here, and it's going to have a side zipper. And if we remember, the waistband was like this. And the easy way is going to be cutting 2 separate pieces. So we're going to have the back waistband and we just remove the darts that we had and we attach them together, and the front waistband. So it's going to look like this. And I can put them here to have more space. So we're going to transfer all these pieces. So now we have all the pieces, and the next thing to do is soften the lines for the waistband. And then it's important to note that the center back is going to be cut on the fold. And the same for the center front is going to be cut on the fold. Now let's name the pieces so you don't get lost. And finally, we're going to add seam allowances, and we're going to add 1 centimeter everywhere except for the center front and the center back that are going to be cut on the fold. We're not going to add any seam allowances there. And for the hem of the trousers, I'm going to be adding 4 centimeters because I'll show you how to finish the hemline with an invisible hand stitch. For the rest, 1 centimeter. And I fold the pleats towards the front. One last thing I haven't said is that if you're using paper like this, that is very easy to fold, what you should do is take this and make sure that when you close this dart, and make sure that when you close this, it folds on the same place. You see that here it does not fold on the same place, so then I would fold it, and then I would draw the waistband again. And I would follow the new waistband. It's just, I cannot do it with this kind of paper. One last thing is I'm going to write down how many I have to cut from each, but I will go more into detail when we get into the cutting table. And just like that, we're done. So let's get into how to sew it together. And just like that, you should have all your pattern pieces. You should have 2, 4, 6, 8 pieces, and it's time to start sewing. So let's look into what materials you're going to need. Let's start with the fabrics you're going to need. For this pattern, I used bamboo. You can use viscose, some fabrics that have a lot of drape, because then the pleats, you make the most of the pleats, otherwise it might be a bit stiff. But for this tutorial, as always, I'm going to be using 100% cotton muslin fabric. Then you're going to need some lining fabric for the pockets. In this case, I'm going to be using 100% cotton, but it's a thinner version. And you're also going to need some interfacing. And I like using stiffer interface because it's for the waistband, and I like the waistband to be sturdy enough to stay in place. And then one other thing that you're going to need is an invisible zipper. I like the zipper to be big enough that goes from the waist to the hip line. So that's my preference, but you can make it longer or you can make it a little bit shorter maybe. Let's look at other materials we're going to need. The tools we're going to need are very simple. As always, I like to have the snippets to cut the little threads, an invisible marker or chalk or whatever you use to mark on the fabric, then some thread, and because this fabric is just viscose or cotton and it's on the light side, you're just going to need the typical normal 100% polyester thread. Then you're going to need some pins to attach the fabric pieces together, and also some hand needles, because I'm going to show you how to finish the hems by hand. And finally, fabric scissors. And for the machines, you're going to need your sewing machine, and these are going to be the stitch length and tension that I'm going to be using. And also I'm going to be using a universal needle. An optional machine is always the overlocker. If you don't have it, don't worry. Whenever I say overlock the seams, you can either bias tape them or add a zigzag stitch from your normal machine, but it's just to finish the edges of the fabric so they don't fray. And finally, you're going to need an iron to press all the seams flat. And those are all the tools you're going to need, so let's get started with the cutting and the sewing. We're going to start with the cutting. If you don't know how fabric works, there's a couple of things that are good to know. This is the selvage of the fabric, and it's where the threads are tied together, and the grain line always goes parallel to the selvage of the fabric. So it goes this way. So then we're going to have to put the pieces this way. And I have the fabric folded because I need to cut some pieces, like the waistband, on the fold. So here I have the fold, and here I have the other edge. And then at the top, I have the raw edges. So let's get the pieces. As I told you, I have the front and back waistbands that I have to cut twice on the main fabric. So I'm gonna cut one and then another one at the bottom and one and another one at the bottom. Then I have the two facings and backings that I need to cut two, and because the fabric is on the fold, that means that I just mark them once, and then I need to cut two off the front and two off the back. So I'm going to mark everything down and get it cut. So now we're done with the pieces for the main fabric. Now let's look into the pocket lining. Again, this is the selvage of the fabric, so this means that this is the raw edge and this is the grain line. So I'm going to put it on the fold, and I'm going to be cutting the pockets like this. And now that we're done with the pocket lining, let's get into the interfacing. And for the interfacing, I'm going to be cutting two backings mirrored, two facings mirrored, and the front and back waistbands on the fold twice. So now that you have all the pieces, you should have two fronts and two backs cut mirrored, two backings and two facings cut mirrored, two front and two back waistbands cut on the fold, the pocket pieces cut in pocket lining fabric cut mirrored also, and then two facings cut mirrored in interfacing, two backings cut mirrored in interfacing, and then all the waistbands that you should have 4 in total. And with that, let's start with the first step, which is interfacing all the pieces. And now that we have all the pieces interfaced, the next thing to do is getting your front and back patterns. The front is the one with the pleats and the back is the one with the darts. And we're going to close the darts and sew them in place. And we're also going to close the pleats and sew them in place so they stay closed. So what I'm going to do is get the line here, and I'm going to fold it over to the next line. And I'm going to hold it with a pin, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this other pleat, from here to the other line, and hold it with a pin. And I'm going to run a stitch to hold them in place. So I'm going to do that for both fronts and close the darts for both backs. And once you're done sewing, don't forget to press the seams flat or press the pleats down. And once we're done, we're going to leave the backs on the side and we're going to focus on the front. So these are the front patterns, and what we're going to do is make the pockets. To do the pockets, the first thing we need is to have all the 4 pieces. So the pocket lining top and bottom, the 2 facings, and the 2 backings. So this is going to go more or less like this, and the first thing I'm going to do is overlock the outer edge of the backings and the facings. And once we're done, we just match them wherever they have to go. and we're going to attach them to the lining piece with a straight stitch on top of the overlocked edge. So all the pieces, we attach them together. And once we have all the pieces attached together, you can see that here is the stitch line. It's time to attach them to the front pattern. So we're gonna get our front patterns, and we're going to match the pocket that has this line here, and we're going to put right sides together. So this is the right side of the pocket, this is the right side of the trousers. So I'm going to attach it like this, and I'm going to run a straight stitch here with 1 centimeter seam allowance for both fronts. So now we have attached the pocket, and what we're going to do is press the seams flat with this seam towards the pocket. So we're gonna do it like that. So this is the back of the trousers, and this is the front of the trousers. And one last thing that I'm going to do is run a straight stitch 1 millimeter away from this seam on top of the pocket to attach these seams on the side of the pocket. And now we have this seam here, and the last thing to do is folding the pocket inwards. So if you did it properly, the edge of the pocket is going to be the same as the edge of the center front. And now that we have one side of the pockets attached to the front panel, we're going to finish them, and we're going to put the other side of the pocket on top. This is the right side, this is the right side. We have to put the right sides together like this, and make sure that we follow the same path, and the same with the other pocket. And now we're going to run a straight stitch, 1 centimeter seam allowance from the edge, only on the bottom edge, and we're also going to overlock all these edges. And after you've overlocked this edge here, I like to overlock the pocket with the center front all together, and I like to also overlock the top part to make sure that the pocket is not going to move, or that the pleats are not going to move, and finally the side of the front. So we're going to overlock everything basically. And I forgot to tell you that you should also overlock the crotch line for the back and the side seams for the back. So now that we have everything overlocked, and with the front and the pockets overlocked, let's attach the pieces together. We start with the back. We put right sides together, so this is the right side, this is the right side. I put them together, and I'm going to sew along the crotch line with 1 centimeter seam allowance, and I do the same with the front. So this is the right side, this is the right side, put them together, and I attach them with 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then we're going to press the seams flat and open. So now we're done attaching the fronts and the backs together, and the next thing we have to do is attach the front and back together to each other. So what we're going to do is we put right sides together, so this is the back right side, this is the front right side. I'm going to put them next to each other, and I'm going to match all the notches at the side seams, here and also at the center seam. There's one thing we need to do also, and it's the side where we're going to add our zipper. So this is going to be our zipper, and you can here decide which side you prefer it in. Let's say I prefer this side. What I'm going to do is put it on the side and mark where the end of my zipper is. So it's around here. So now this side of the trousers, I'm only going to sew until here. So let's pin it together. So now that everything is pinned into place, I'm going to run a stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance on the side seams and on the inseams, And here I'm going to run it until I find this pin, and I'm going to leave this for the pocket later. So leave this side open. And once we're done running those stitches, I'm going to run the overlock through here to finish the raw edges, and I'm going to press all the seams flat. And once we're done pressing all the seams and attaching everything together, I'm going to turn the pants inside out so the right side is facing us. And now that we have this ready, we're going to have to attach the waistband. So let's build the waistband. We have 2 pieces of each. So let's see again which is which. So this is the back, this is the front, this is the back, and this is the other front. So we have here the fronts and here the backs. Now, we have to look at where this is going to be, right? The opening. So this is the front, this is going to go here. So I'm going to attach it to the back here, right? So then this side is going to be open. To do that, I'm going to put right sides together, and I'm going to sew on this side with 1 centimeter seam allowance to attach them together. And this side of the waistband is going to be the inside. So this is going to go like this, right? Like this. So that means that they have to be attached here again. So I'm going to put right sides together, pin them, and I'm going to run a stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance. And I also press the seams flat, like this, open. And the next thing I'm going to do is attach the waistbands together. So I'm going to put right sides together. This is the right side and this is the right side. So I'm going to put them together. And I'm going to sew along this top line with 1 centimeter seam allowance. And we press the seams flat again. And we close the waistband like this, and we press it again. And now it's time to attach the waistband to the trousers. So to do that, we're just going to match all the notches. The center front, the side seam, the center back, and the side back. And when you have everything pinned, you just sew with 1 centimeter seam allowance around the waistband to attach it together to the trousers. And once we have attached the waistband, we can press the seams flat again, with the seams going inside of the waistband. And now we're ready to attach the zipper, so let's go. We're in the step before last, and it's attaching the zipper. And we have the zipper here on the side, and we know that it's gonna go on this side, and we have the right side of the trousers facing us. Now the zipper is going to go until the top of the waistband. So what we're going to do is, we're gonna attach it first to one side and then to the other side. Let's start with this one. I like to open the zipper because it's more comfortable, and be careful where the front is and where the back is. With the invisible zipper, the side where you see all the zipper teeth, that's the wrong side. So this is the right side. I open my zipper, and I'm going to put it on top. So I'm going to turn it around like this and put it on top of the side of the trousers. And I'm going to attach it together. And make sure that the zipper stopper is at the top of your waistband. And attach it all the way till you're opening. Now let's go to the machine, and I'll show you which machine foot you should be using. There's one machine foot that is specifically for invisible zippers, and it's this one, and it has these two channels at the bottom, and this little hole at the top and this separation here. In the zipper, you have this, and this is going to be on the channel. So you're going to match the channel. You can see you match the channel to the teeth of the zipper, and then you're going to sew all along, and this is going to allow you to sew the closest to the teeth as possible. And now, as you can see, you have the seam here that is super close to your teeth, and if I close my zipper now, you basically do not see the teeth at all the way down. And now let me show you how you sew the other side. So this is one side, I have the zipper closed, and one thing I like to do is mark where the waistband is. So I have kind of a notch. So now I know where the waistband should be sitting on the other side, and I'm going to open the zipper again. So now we have this. We know that the zipper goes like that when it's closed. So we look into the other side, and again we go right sides together. So this is the right side of my fabric, and this here is the right side of my zipper. So I just align all the notches, so the side with the side, and I make sure that the waistband sits on the same place as the other one, and then I attach it with pins and I sew it again. And be careful, because it's really easy to put it inside out or to turn it one too many times. So just check before you attach the zipper together that you did it right. I did it right. So I'm going to go into the sewing. And we're done attaching the zipper. Now we close it to make sure that we did it properly. And as you can see on the right side, I could have gone even closer to the teeth, but with the camera it was a little bit difficult. And then you're probably going to see that you have a hole here, right? So what we do is we turn our trousers inside out again. We basically attach this together. And we're going to run a stitch that goes where the stitch where we were attaching the zipper ends to where our side stitch was. So we just attach these two together on both sides, and that's it. And aside from that, another thing we have to do is close the waistband. So I'm going to put the head of the zipper to the right, and I'm going to close the zipper, and I'm going to close the waistband like this. I'm going to attach it with a pin, and I'm going to run a stitch with 1 centimeter seam allowance that is really close to the teeth of the waistband on both sides. I forgot to tell you that when you close the waistband here, the bottom of the bottom seam, you have to fold it inwards, because then when we bring the waistband like this, we want this inside seam to stay inside. And now that we're done with this, we're going to cut the remainder of the zipper, and I'm going to cut in a diagonal around this pointy space. And we're going to turn our waistband the right way. Now we have to make sure that this outer seam is folded enough that it covers the seam, but it doesn't cover it too much. So for now, I'm going to attach it with pins. So we're going to get a hand sewing needle and some basting thread. Basting thread is basically a type of thread that is weaker than the other one, so if I pull, it breaks. And I'm going to get the length of the waistband in thread. I'm going to thread the needle and make a little knot. So what I'm going to do is, See, I keep stabbing myself, so I'm going to hand baste this and make sure that it sits in the proper place. It has to sit a little bit below this seam here, and I do it so when I go and sew it, I don't stab myself with the needles. And now I'm done basting all the waistband, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my trousers inside out, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch that they say. This means that I'm going to run a stitch in between the waistband and the trousers. So where the seam already exists, I'm going to run a stitch there. And that means that this stitch is going to be invisible on one side and is going to attach the waistband on the other side. So let's go. And once we're done with this, I'm also going to overlock the hem of the pants, and I'll show you how to finish them later. And the last thing to do is the hem of the pants. For that, we're going to turn the trousers inside out. And if you remember, we added 4 centimeters ease at the hem. So we're going to put that hem up 4 centimeters. I use this little tool, but you can use your marker or whatever works for you. We do that for both legs, and I'm going to show you now how to do the invisible stitch by hand. I have threaded my needle with some thread, and I'm going to make a little knot here at the bottom. What I like to do is I fold inwards this hem, so inwards, and I always start at the side seam so I remember what I started, and you pick up one thread from the trousers and then you go diagonally to the hem, and you continue doing that the whole way. So you pick up one thread going diagonally and then diagonally to the hem. And then I finish it with a little knot. I run the thread, I leave a little bit. We cut it, and let's see the other side. As you can see, there's some little dots, and you can see them because I used black thread, but otherwise you wouldn't see them. And that's it, that's how you do the hem, and we're done with the trousers. And just like that, we're done with our pleated trousers. They look so cute. I absolutely love them, and I think they're fairly easy to make. Please let me know in the comments if you think so too, and otherwise I'll try to make them more beginner friendly. I'll also try to make more videos about how to make different pockets, different leg lines, how to change the waistband, so you can pick up whatever design you want and then modify it a little bit to your own taste. But that is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.